In an open and free society like ours, we can never entirely eliminate the threat from terrorism. But we must do everything possible, consistent with our values as a country, to reduce the risk presented by our enemies.
Tonight's top story, a major spike in terrorism. London, England's top cop says police and security forces have broken up as many as, well, 5 terrorist plots this year alone. Police in London say they typically deal with 1 plot a year. Authorities also estimate some 500 British jihadists have traveled to fight in Syria with ISIS and are, well, they're concerned about their potential return to Great Britain. Sun News contributor Simon Kent joins us now from London. Simon, that was Theresa May, the Home Secretary, announcing new measures. Fill us in on what's going on. New measures for security forces. Is this a major crackdown? Is this going to stop the free and open society that Ms. May was talking about?
Well, that's 2 parts. Let's look at the first part there. Yes, it is a major crackdown. Here in the UK, residents have been told to expect this to last for years. The highest rate of security and the highest rate of threat for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. What will this mean? Hopefully it doesn't mean taking away the privileges and the enjoyment of living in a free and open society. But the threat was made very real. The threat was very, very real by Elizabeth May. She outlined it. She said, this is unprecedented in British history. There's going to be a lot of pressure on police and authorities to crack down on the people who would go overseas and return to this country and do British residents harm. There's going to be a fierce debate over this too, because people feel they enjoy living in an open and liberal society. They don't want to give up a lot of those freedoms and privileges, but at the same time they're going to have to put up with some things they might feel impinge upon those rights in the name of greater security.
We've had 1 terrorist attack on Canadian soil in recent years, and that was just a few weeks ago. There have been several in Britain, and Scotland Yard's chief was saying we got to be worried about lone wolf attacks. I would say that you pretty much already had one with the attack on Lee Rigby and his beheading in the middle of the streets. So this is a very real threat to Britain, and I'm wondering if has Britain hit the tipping point where people are willing to say, you know what, we're having a real issue here. Let's give up that bit of liberty to deal with the types of guys we're seeing on camera right now.
I don't think people are going to be giving up liberties, but you mentioned the threats. We're told now these are asymmetric threats. They'll be 1-offs or 2-offs. It won't be a 9/11. We won't see that again. I hope we don't see that again. But these will be individuals on the streets, like the ones who attacked drummer Lee Rigby here last year. You mentioned him. He was beheaded on a street in Woolwich, a suburban part of London. That's the threat, and they're monitoring so many groups. We've seen week after week a procession through the courts here, through the Old Bailey, people charged, and they're getting convictions of planning these sorts of plots. Everyone's told to be alert, but don't be alarmed. Go about your daily business. But I must say, Metropolitan Police, MI5, MI6, in conjunction with New Scotland Yard, seem to be getting results, seem to be getting arrests and getting convictions. We're going to have to expect to see more of this.
Britain's been through this before, thinking back to the Irish Troubles. Is it different than then? Is it about the same? I know the threat is different, but is the reaction the same? Is Britain just able to deal with this because they have in the past?
I lived here in London in the mid-1990s as a bureau chief for a newspaper group from Australia. I lived here, I went about my business, but I was really aware and were told then that the IRA was going to have an underground bombing campaign. Underground, I mean on the tube system. But people still went about their business, and I can remember distinctly feeling then in London I was going to get the tube to and from work. I wasn't going to stop going about my daily life, and that is the sort of mindedness that goes on here now. This country's been through threats like this before, real threats to people's safety and welfare, but life will go on and people will go on living the way they do, because to do anything else, Brian, about the way people live is to give in to the people who would cause fear and make people fear for their lives, when they really should be going about their business and getting on with their life without worrying about that sort of thing.
All right, last 20 seconds to you. David Cameron still in a minority situation. Is he going to be able to get this through the legislature with the support of the Liberal Democrats or others who might not really like the direction he's going?
Yes, because in matters of national security like this, I think the nation's security comes first. It's very hard to mount a counter-argument against greater security. Any government and any loyal opposition would realise it's better to err on the side of caution. It's better to err on the side of bringing in security than to go the other way and have a major catastrophe and people to turn around and say, how did that happen? Why weren't we warned? No, the security will go ahead and these bills will go through Parliament when they're brought in to be read, and we can just have to live with it and get on with our lives as best as we can.
All right, Simon, all the best, and as always, stay safe. We'll chat soon.